press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.
Namaste children, let us continue with the topic evolution. In our last class we discussed about the evidences that helps in the study of evolution. So in that paleontological evidences we discussed and also comparative anatomy and morphological evidences we discussed. So under paleontology we know that study about fossils is called paleontology. So the evidences we get from paleontological are nothing but fossils are main thing which helps in the study about evolution. The study about fossils is called paleontology. So this paleontological evidences helps us to study in the phylogeny of an organism, that means ancestral history of that organism, and also it helps us to study in the connecting link between two group of organisms, that means one form of organism has arose from other form of organism, and also that study helps in the study about extinct animals like dinosaurs, and also it helps in the study about geographical period, geographical history of that particular organism, where it lives in which particular years. And also this evidences helps us to know how the simple form of organisms have evolved from complex form of organisms. So in this paleontological study, the age of fossil is known by using radioactive isotopes. In that most common used radioactive isotope is carbon dating technique, that is C14. So we have two isotopes, C14 and C12. In that C12 is more stable carbon, whereas C14 is unstable carbon. So suppose immediately when the organisms dies, suppose this is the surface of the earth, when the organism dies here, it contains 100% of carbon 14. After the death, it starts, C14 will start decaying. So somewhere we found the organism in this layer of the earth, sedimentary rocks, it contains 50% of C14. So the age, so half-life of carbon C14 is 5730 years. So the age of this fossil is 5730 years. So one type of fossil we find here which contain 25% of carbon 14. That means, so this fossil age we have to calculate 5730 into 2, that we get the age of this fossil. Somehow here the fossil we get, it contains 12.5% of carbon 14, because it is half of, it will take 25 to 12.5, so again it will take 5730 time, that one you have to get multiplied by 3, then we get the age of fossil of this. Like this, the age of fossil is calculated by using carbon dating technique given by Libby. The half-life of carbon 14 is 5730 years. Understood? It is the most used technique to find the age of a fossil. So after this we discussed comparative anatomy and morphology. So in that homologous organs and analogous organs. Homologous organs, here the organs show common, they are common in origin and structure, but they differ in function. Understood? So they show divergent, they are examples for divergent evolution. Whereas analogous organs, in analogous organs, they are they should different in their origin and structure, but they are going to perform common function. So these analogous organs are examples for convergent evolution. Understood? So that all we discussed in our last class. Today we will discuss some of the evidences which helps in study about evolution. So evidences from vestigial organs. So what are vestigial organs? So these vestigial organs are reduced or non-functional in some organisms. These are organs which are reduced and non-functional in organs and they are very functional in some organs. So these vestigial organs, these are organs which are reduced or non-functional in some organs and very functional in, the function is very important in some organs, understood. Example for this is vermiform appendix, plica, and wisdom teeth. Many are there, so we will take very few examples. So vermiform appendix, we know that it is a junction, it's finger-like projections we see with the junction. This is large intestine. This is small intestine. So it is a finger-like projection where the small intestine joins the large intestine. So this is vermiform appendix. This one is non-functional in human beings. Vermiform appendix is a vestigial in human beings, but this is very much functional in herbivorous animals. It forms a pouch in herbivorous animals that helps in the digestion of cellulose. Hagagi, this vermiform appendix is non-functional in human beings, whereas very much functional in herbivorous, that like cow, where that helps mainly in the digestion of cellulose. And plica semilunaris is a pink color membrane present in the inner angle of the eye. It is present in the inner angle of the eye. So this represents like nictitating membrane in frog and fish, birds. Nictitating membrane in birds and frogs. So this plica semilunaris, which is a pink color membrane present in the inner angle of the eye, so that we call it as nictitating membrane in birds and frog. This plica semilunaris is vestigial in human beings, whereas this membrane, which we call it as nictitating membrane in birds and frog, in those organisms it lubricates eye and protects the eye. Understood? That is the main function of this membrane in birds and frog. It provides lubrication to eye and also it protects the eyeball, whereas this is non-functional in human beings. Understood? Then wisdom teeth is nothing but last molar or third molar. This last molar or third molar is usually non-functional in human beings, but it is more functional in carnivorous. Understood? So this vermiform appendix, it is non-functional in human beings and they are functional in herbivorous. There it helps in digestion of cellulose. Plica semilunaris, which is represented by nictitating membrane in birds and frog, mainly helps in lubrication and in the protection of eyes, whereas this is vestigial in human beings. And wisdom teeth, third molar, is vestigial in human being, but they are more functional in carnivorous. Understood? So this helps us to know that we all have originated from common ancestors, but based on the function, some organs are reduced in some organisms. When there is no function of that organ, in that organisms they are reduced. In the organisms where their functions are very important, they are evolved. They are evolved and show a particular function. That is about the evidences from vestigial organs. Then we will move with evidences from connecting links. See, connecting links, these are the organisms which shows characters of two different organisms. These are living organisms or these which shows so these are living organisms which shows characters of two different group of animals. So this shows that the one form has arose from another form. That means one form of organism has given rise to another form of organism. Example for this connecting links, we know that virus, it connects between non-living and living. So this virus behaves like non-living when it is present outside the living organism, but when it is present inside the living organisms, it behaves like living. So it is a connecting link between non-living and living. Euglena connects plants and animals. It is a connecting link between plants and animals. As plants, it is autotrophic in function due to the presence of chlorophyll. Like animals, it shows locomotion. Like that, Euglena helps in plants. It is a connecting link between plants and animals. Then Proterospongia, it is a connecting link between protozoa and porifera. So here they shows colonial cells of protozoa, but the cells have collar, they show collar-like cells which resembles the porifera cells, that is choanocytes. The collar-like cells of protozoa resembles the choanocytes of porifera. In that way, this is a connecting link between protozoa and porifera. Understood? Virus, it connects between non-living and living. Euglena connects plants and animals. Proterospongia connects protozoa and porifera. So other examples we have Peripatus connects between Annelida and Arthropoda. Neopalina connects Arthropoda and mollusca. Balanoglossus connects between So, Peripatus, it connects between Annelida and Arthropoda. So, like Annelida, it shows body segmentation. It shows body segmentation. Like Arthropoda, it shows jointed legs. Understood? This Peripatus shows Annelida features, that means segments on their body surface. Arthropoda features like presence of jointed legs. So that's Peripatus connects between Annelida and Arthropoda, whereas Neopalina, it connects between Arthropoda and mollusca. That means it is having, here also we can see the segmentation of body, but like mollusca, it shows shell on the structure. Sorry, it connects. So, Neopalina is a connecting link between Annelida and mollusca. It shows the segmented body and also shell on their surface and muscular foot Understood? This Neopalina, it shows Annelida, that means segmented body it is going to show, and like mollusca, it shows shell and also muscular foot. So like this, Neopalina links between Annelida and mollusca. Balanoglossus. So the Balanoglossus, we know that like this. This Balanoglossus, it shows open circulatory system like non-chordates, and chordates, it is having a stoma cord which resembles notochord, which is a homologous to notochord which is present in chordates. Understood? So that is the Balanoglossus. In that way it links between non-chordates and chordates. Non-chordate features, it shows open circulatory system. Chordate features, it shows a stomochord which is homologous to notochord, which we see in the early development of chordates. Understood? So these links are very important for your competitive exams. Peripatus between Annelida and Arthropoda, Neopalina between Annelida and mollusca, Balanoglossus between non-chordates and chordates. And again we have some other connecting links. Chimera, which connects between cartilaginous fishes and bony fishes. Archaeopteryx connects between reptiles and birds. Protopterus is also called lungfish, which connects between fishes and amphibians. Then prototherians, that is echidna and platypus, so it connects between reptiles and mammals. See, chimera is an organism which links between cartilaginous and bony fish. It shows ventral mouth and cartilaginous endoskeleton like cartilaginous fish, and gill slits. It resembles the gill slits like bony fishes. So, in that way chimera connects between cartilaginous and bony fishes. Archaeopteryx, we know that it shows the teeth arrangements and skeletal arrangement like reptiles, presence of beak and feathers like birds. So, in that way it links between birds and reptiles. Protopterus, so it is lungfish, it resembles fish, understood, it is having fins everything like fishes, but it is having lungs. So, lung is a feature of amphibian, whereas other features resembles fishes. So, that is why it connects between fishes and amphibians. Whereas prototherians like platypus and echidna, they connects between reptiles and mammals. These are oviparous mammals, they lay the eggs. So, that shows reptilian characters. Mammalians, these are warm-blooded animals, and also they produce milk to feed their young ones. So, like these platypus and echidna connects between reptiles and mammals, understood. So, chimera, it shows ventral mouth and endoskeleton like cartilaginous fish and gill slits like bony fishes. Archaeopteryx, skeletal system like reptiles, whereas presence of beak and feathers like birds. Protopterus, it shows fins, every structure is like fishes, but it is having lungs like amphibians. Whereas in prototherians, this platypus and echidna, they are oviparous, they lay the eggs and they are warm-blooded animals, and they nourish their baby also by producing milk. Like this, these organisms links between two respective organisms. So, this is how the connecting link helps us to study how one form of organisms have give rise to another form of organisms, understood. So, in that way it helps in the study about evolution. So, next we will move with evidences from atavism. Atavism means reversion. Then what is atavism? It is a sudden reappearance of reduced or non-functional organ in an organism. is nothing but atavism. ನಿಮಗೆ 1 mark question ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು. What is atavism or reversion? It's a sudden reappearance. See, it is very important. Sudden reappearance means already those organs were present in the ancestral organisms. As the evolution took place, those organs have reduced and have become non-functional. Now suddenly those organs, if we see in a present living organisms, it is called atavism. Example for this is human baby born with tail. Human baby which is born with tail and presence of long and thick hair on body, on human body, represents that these two represents, so we are ape-like structure, ancestral characters like apes, and presence of long pointed canine teeth in some human beings represents carnivorous ancestors, understood? The baby which is born with tail and the baby which is having long and thick hair on their body, they shows our ancestral characters like apes, and presence of long pointed canine teeth tells us about carnivorous ancestors. Like this atavism helps in the study about evolution. Then we have evidences from physiology and biochemistry. So here organisms, different organisms show similarity in their physiological functions and also in chemical nature of the protein or lipids, or how they are going to function in different organisms, that is going to be same. So that tells us that also helps in the study about evolution. So in this we will discuss like protoplasm. This protoplasm, the structure and composition of protoplasm remains the same from amoeba to mammals. Amoeba to mammals, and enzyme like trypsin this trypsin, we know that it is a protein digesting enzyme. If we see this trypsin in fishes, there also this trypsin is a protein digestive enzyme. If we find this trypsin in mammals, there also it is a protein digestive enzymes. The enzymes function will be the same in all vertebrates. So like that, this also helps in the study about evolution. The enzyme trypsin is a protein digesting enzyme in fishes also. The enzyme trypsin is a protein digestive enzyme in mammals also. And also blood composition. The composition of blood is same. Composition of blood is same in all vertebrates. Composition of blood We know that what's the function of RBC, WBC, hemoglobin. Like that, composition of blood is same in all vertebrates. And also when coming to the hormones, hormones function also remains same from lower organisms to higher organisms. Example, if you take oxytocin, oxytocin mainly helps in parturition in human beings. Also the same hormone oxytocin helps in egg laying mammals also. That means that helps to eject egg out of the body. So like that it helps in the oviparous and also viviparous, mainly by contracting the muscles, uterine muscles in human beings. So like that oxytocin hormone mainly helps in egg laying organisms also by ejaculating, by pushing the eggs out of the body. Like this, hormones also play a common function in different organisms. They also do common function in different organisms. So there is no different hormone that helps in egg laying. The same organ, the hormone, that is oxytocin, and also in viviparous it is the same hormone oxytocin. And hereditary material also. So all organisms have same hereditary material like DNA, and DNA also shows same structure in all organisms. Hereditary material is DNA. In all organisms, very few organisms it is RNA, but in majority of the organism it is DNA. DNA acts as a hereditary material, and also the structure of DNA remains same in all organisms. Understood? Like this study about evidences from physiology and biochemistry helps in the study about evolution. Understood? So what it tells, either we share a common ancestors, and also we all evolved from simpler form of life into complex form. Then we will move with the evidences from embryology. What is embryology? It is a study about organism from the formation till the development of young ones. It is a branch of biology that helps So it is a branch of biology that helps in the study about organisms from the formation and development to young ones. That is nothing but embryology. Understood? In the embryology, so we have Ernst Haeckel is considered as father of embryology. He told ontogeny repeats or recapitulates recapitulation theory. So ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. So this embryological evidences tells us that organisms during their embryonic development will have their ancestral adult stages. What this ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny tells us, the embryo of an organisms will show their ancestral adult age during their development. So ontogeny means it tells about development of an organism. That means how we know that first zygote forms. If we take any in fishes also, in reptiles also, in birds also, in mammals also, and in invertebrates also, first the zygote forms, then we see blastulation, then we see gastrulation. After the gastrulation, 3 layers, that is 3 germ layers are going to be formed, like ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm. That will give rise to particular organs. So this is the developmental stages of an organisms. So all invertebrates and also vertebrates shows this. So that is from zygote, then it converts into blastulation, gastrulation, and then it gives rise to 3 germ layers, ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm, that will give rise to different organs. Phylogeny means study about ancestral. It tells about evolutionary history. Phylogeny tells us evolutionary history of an organism. So competitive, it is very important. Ontogeny means it tells us development of an organism, whereas phylogeny tells us evolutionary history of an organism. Understood? Like in human beings, Dryopithecus to Homo sapiens. So that is told us by phylogeny studies. This ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny is named as biogenetic law by Unstreckel. So this biogenetic law was given by Unstreckel. So what the Unstreckel is going to tell us, in the embryonic development of an organisms, they show their ancestral adult stage. That was given by Unstreckel. That means ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. That means during developmental stages, they are going to recapitulate their ancestral characters. That's the meaning of this. But also, it is very difficult to us to find out the embryos of vertebrates. So if we see the embryo of fishes, so you see the slits and tail is going to present. So like this, when you take the fish embryo or reptile embryo, we are not able to differentiate in the early stages. In the Noduvaga, by seeing this, we cannot tell after some time it is going to become fish. After some times it is going to become mammal, because the embryos of all vertebrates resembles same. Embryos of all vertebrates resemble same. So that also tells us we are all going to share a common ancestors. What we studying fishes, reptiles, birds and mammals, they are all going to share a common ancestors. And also Von Baer told that embryogenic law given by, he is also considered as father of modern embryology. He told, in the development of embryo, general characters appears first. Then special characters appears. So by giving the embryological law, the von Baer is not accepted unstable by genetic law. He is going to tell that in the early development, when we study the embryology of the different group of organisms, they show general characters first. Then their specialized characters going to appear. That means first general characters means formation of brain, spinal cord, then aortic arches. So like this, first they shows formation of general characters. When we take fishes special characters, in fishes we see the development of fins, and in birds we see the development of feathers. So like this, the special characters of that particular organism is going to appear after that. So that was given by von Baer. He told in the development of embryo, general characters appears first, then the respective their special characters are going to appear. This is given by von Baer. So all these evidences helps us in the study about evolution. So that tells us, that means the organisms have evolved from simpler form into complex form, and also from aquatic to terrestrial. That means we all, one or other way, we all share a common ancestors. Like this evidences helps in the study about evolution. Understood? So in this class, very important thing you may get in your competitive exam is what is atavism. Atavism means nothing but study about sudden. It is atavism is nothing but the sudden reappearance of reduced or non-functional organ in a organism. That is atavism. Connecting links are very important for your competitive exams. Protopterus lungfish connects between fishes and amphibians. Euglena connects between plants and animals. Chimera connects between cartilaginous fishes and bony fishes. Peripatus connects between annelid and arthropoda. Neopalina connects between annelid and mollusca. Balanoglossus connects between non-chordates and chordates. Archaeopteryx connects between reptiles and birds, whereas Prototherians, platypus and echidna connects between reptiles and mammals. These are all very much important for your competitive exams. So go through your textbook thoroughly. In the next class, we will discuss about other evidences related to study about evolution. Thank you.